The modern Cleveland torso. Between 2007 and 2009, at least 12 people were murdered in Cleveland, Ohio, in a series of killings believed to be a modern copycat of the original Cleveland torso killer. The victims were dismembered, with heads and limbs removed, and the bodies were dumped in public locations. The consistent killing method suggested a single offender. Without any clear reason, the murders stopped suddenly. No suspect was ever charged, and the killer was never identified. The Jeff Davis 8. Between 2005 and 2009, 8 women were murdered in Jennings, Louisiana. The victims were found in canals, ditches, and rural areas across Jefferson Davis Parish. Several of the victims knew each other and were connected through shared social circles. Investigators identified multiple suspects, but no arrests were ever made. The case became controversial due to allegations of police corruption, mishandled evidence, and ignored leads. As of today, the person or people responsible for the Jeff Davis 8 murders have never been officially identified. The smiley face killer. Between the late 1990s and 2010s, dozens of young men were found drowned in rivers across multiple U.S. cities. In many cases, smiley face graffiti was reported near the locations where the bodies were found. Police investigations ruled the deaths as accidents, but independent investigators suspect they may have been part of a series of organized killings. No arrests were ever made, and the alleged killer or killers were never identified. The Doodler. Between 1974 and 1975 in San Francisco, at least 5 men were murdered. The killer specifically targeted gay men and earned the nickname the Doodler because he sketched his victims before killing them. Some survivors were able to describe him, but most witnesses refused to speak to police, making the investigation difficult. Police released sketches and followed leads, but no arrests were ever made, and the killer was never identified. The case remains one of San Francisco's most famous unsolved serial murders, highlighting how dangerous and elusive the killer was. The Manchester Pusher. Since 2008, over 80 men have died in Manchester, United Kingdom, often found in canals. Some victims had injuries before drowning, which has raised suspicion among families and independent investigators. Police have ruled most of the deaths as accidents, but families and experts strongly disagree. No suspect has ever been named, and the case remains unresolved, with questions about whether these deaths are connected. The situation is sometimes called the Manchester Pusher due to the suspicious patterns of the deaths. The Seoul basement murders. In South Korea during the early 2000s, several people entered private buildings and disappeared. Some bodies were later found hidden in basements, while others were never recovered. A pattern of disappearances was noticed years after the first cases, suggesting a possible serial killer. No suspect has ever been confirmed, and the cases remain unsolved. Some investigators and theorists suspect a single person was targeting vulnerable individuals and hiding the bodies, but this has never been proven. The nameless forest burials. Between the 1980s and 2000s in Japan, multiple bodies were discovered years later in forests. The victims had no identification, making it difficult to determine who they were. Investigators noticed a pattern in the locations and timing of the discoveries, suggesting they may be connected. No suspect has ever been identified, and the cases remain unsolved. Some theorists believe a single person or group may have been responsible, dumping the bodies in remote forests, but this has never been confirmed. These cases are often referred to as the nameless forest burials because the victims remain unidentified. The Chilpancingo disappearances. Between the 2000s and 2010s in Chilpancingo, Mexico, dozens of people disappeared, often after being last seen with friends or acquaintances. Some bodies were later found in mass graves, while many were never found. The bodies that were found showed signs of being killed, like strangulation, stabbing, or blows to the head. Some evidence was destroyed or hidden, making it hard for police to solve the case. No killer has been officially identified, but some people think a criminal group or organized killer might be behind it. The case is still unsolved, and many questions remain about what really happened.